Well, there's two immediate areas that I want to dig in there. First is everybody's probably thinking, okay, is this like a veterinary industry kind of a thing? Does this apply to my business? And the answer is yes, it does apply to their business. And the second thing is that sometimes we live with a problem so long, we don't really realize the greater context of how big it is or that we really need to solve it, even if we don't know how to. And so I just want to say thank you right away for coming on because we're going to kind of unpack all this today, right? And prove to people that a problem that we think is unsolvable, a problem that the industry has lived with for so long, there is actually another way to look at it, right? And by doing that, not only do we have low turnover rates, we have high CSAT, and we have really happy C-suite individuals. Because in the end, we have to. We have to be internal salespeople to advocate for our budgets and our resources, right? So that we can do the kinds of things that we want to do. And if we don't know how to talk that C-suite language and we don't have the right KPIs that make sense to them and show how we have a direct connection, right? We're not going to accomplish that. So we've got a lot to cover here today. So I would love to just start out and just ask you, what are the most important things that you want to talk about in terms of, what this model is, and then how we go about executing that model?
Yeah. So one thing we kind of glossed over is not only am I a veterinarian, and just so your readers have some context of where do I fit in the, veterinary ecosystem. I'm a small animal specialist, so I'm a cat and dog specialist. I did some advanced training to get there. But before any of that ever shaped itself, I got my MBA while I was still working on becoming a veterinarian. And so business concepts became the core of who I am as a veterinarian. I don't know how to separate the two. So I'm glad I did it that way instead of going to vet school, becoming a veterinarian, trying to figure out life, going back for my MBA. I just did it all at the beginning. So I had a totally different frame of reference when it comes to these types of topics. And so the one thing that I took away from my MBA, if anyone ever asked me, like, what is the one thing you got out of your MBA? For me, it was understanding this concept of value propositions when it comes to, as a business, what do you value and how do you take that value to your customers, right? So I would love to kind of highlight that because that part of it plays such a key role in how you shape your support model and how you engage your C-suite. Because, for example, if you're a low-cost leader, you probably don't care a whole lot about customer support from that level of like a really intimate and highly engaged support team, right? Because you're going to be cutting costs throughout your whole business so that you can create economic model for your customers. Whereas if customer support is the critical part of your value proposition, then you're going to probably over leverage on that. And maybe you're getting a hint of what my favorite model is. So I think like talking about value propositions in the shaping of a customer support model is going to be really important. And then I think taking those pearls, beginning with the end in mind, for those who subscribe to that theory, then you start to say, how do I need to treat my support team and what people do I need to find? When I was at CCW, I was chatting with someone after the event and we were talking about, well, she really wanted to know, how can I do this? And it was like, well, the best example I can give is if you're in the luxury handbag market, for example, let's take veterinarian out of it. But if you're into luxury handbags, there's a certain clientele that probably subscribes as well to luxury handbags. And if you hire a support team where not only have they never seen a luxury handbag, it's not something they're interested in, what kind of support are they going to offer this particular clientele, right? So that model has to be kind of considered from beginning to end before you even start hiring, before you even start figuring out where do I go as a business. Those things I think are really critical when we're talking about this in the big picture, because what are you going to carry to your C-suite? You can't go with a model that is completely contrary to the entire scope of the business than the business model. So I'm really fortunate in that I align in the value proposition itself, right? I am a key customer of Antec in the sense of being a veterinarian. And the passion I have around support and building support models fits really well with where Antec fits in terms of their value proposition with customers. And it makes it easier for me when I'm going and I'm asking for another 50 or another 100 people to really meet our customers where our customers are asking to be met. And then I can ensure that those people who understand the veterinary customer, because so many of them worked in the veterinary clinic at one point or another, or they're really passionate pet owners, right? For those that never worked in the clinic, they understand how important this is. And again, there's always a pet or producing animal on the other end of the story. Yeah.